What's going on? Welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of Off the Schneid. We're going to jump right into doing some drafting as promised in my post on Twitter. Free agency is more or less wrapping up. Like I told you, it starts on Monday. It starts during the tampering period. There's no no reason for it to not. I think the only deal that got turned around so far was the kicker deal for Will Lutz, I believe, was the only deal that got turned around. Usually you see more than one, and some defensive players, whatever, kickers especially, that get turned around or maybe don't pass a physical, something like that might come up or might happen, or something might turn up in the physical that unwinds the deal. But here we are, we're Wednesday now, we're drafting as we always are. And like I said, it's more or less wrapped up, at least all the big names. Marquise Hollywood Brown still out there. Jonah Williams just got picked up today by the Arizona Cardinals. So that's a big, offensive lineman that's now off the market. Off the top of my head, I can't think of anyone realistically. Huge discounted price and a massive good deal for Patrick Queen with the Pittsburgh Steelers. That one kind of pisses me off. I was really hoping the Bengals were going to go after him. I know we have Logan Wilson, Akeem Davis Gaither, and Jermaine Pratt still there playing well, but I think that a guy like Patrick Queen could have put that defense over the edge, might have made a huge difference in the playoffs for me. So I was really hoping my Bengals would go after Patrick Queen. If not, I expected him to be a Seattle Seahawk, with Mike McDonald. But here we are. He's a Pittsburgh Steeler. Great deal for that team. And it's a great player to get on their roster. So a little jealous, but it is what it is. But like I said, we're going to jump straight into a draft here and, dig into some player takes a little bit here and there. Let's enter. If you're in the chat, jump in. If you want to draft, we're waiting on 9. So that's good. Not a bad time to jump in. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. There we go. So waiting on 7 people now. Risers and fallers in the first round, post free agency. I think the obvious, most glaring player in this entire first round is Justin Jefferson. Obviously, losing Kirk Cousins hurts his value an insane amount. Like I said last week, we're going to see him fall below Jamar Chase. Here we are. I think we'll see him fall below Breece Hall for sure. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown moves up ahead of Justin Jefferson for me. Probably Bijan Robinson. Offense promises improvement. Cool. Yeah, we'd imagine that. Bijan Robinson might move ahead of him. I think we'll see AJ Brown in the long run. Maybe not while this tournament is open, but I think during Best Ball Mania and throughout the summer, we see AJ Brown move up. Jahmyr Gibbs is going to slide down. We're going to see, Garrett Wilson, I think, move up ahead of Jahmyr Gibbs. I think DJ Moore is going to push up a little bit, post free agency. We'll see what they do. They got to bring in a wide receiver, so we'll see what happens there. We're sitting 4, which I love because that, basically takes Justin Jefferson off the table for me. I won't be drafting Justin Jefferson. Few badges in here. It's good to see. A few badge-less drafters, which is also good to see. A little good mix of both. So yeah, I think we're going to see Justin Jefferson settle, 7, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 7, maybe 8, something like that. Might be a discount, you could say, depending on who they get at quarterback. But I think they're genuinely going to give Sam Darnold an opportunity to win that job. Not saying that Sam Darnold is going to be the starting quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings, and certainly not saying he's going to be the starter for them for the entire season this coming season. But I think that he's going to get every opportunity to win that job and be the starting quarterback for that team. Or a rookie comes in. I could see the Vikings trading up. The Titans are now a trade back team in the draft, in my opinion. The Giants are certainly a trade back team. So if you're a team like the Vikings at, what are they, 12, 13, or 11 or 12, something like that, you could see the Vikings move up, into the top 7 in order to draft a quarterback, Drake May, JJ McCarthy, Jaden Daniels, if he falls, any of those guys. I think, it's for Drake May or potentially JJ McCarthy. But and then we'll see what happens. Is Sam Darnold just your bridge quarterback? Pretty easy selection, 4th overall now. I think this is where it's going to settle at. Even moving into the summer, into Best Ball Mania, we're going to see McCaffrey, Tyreek Hill, CeeDee Lamb, and then Jamar Chase is how it's going to settle. And like I said, probably Breece Hall, then probably Amon-Ra St. Brown, then Bijan Robinson, then Justin Jefferson. That's kind of the way I see this kind of leveling off moving into the summer. So we'll see. Gonna grab a sip from the old mason jar. I got it's called Jerk Face 9000. And yes, that is actually what this is called. It's a fantastic beverage and Canadian. Here we go. Northwest Wheat Ale is what we got in the cup tonight. It's a fantastic little beverage. But back to this. That's where I think this kind of levels out. AJ Brown moves up. Garrett Wilson moves up. Jahmyr Gibbs moves down. I think Puka slides below AJ Brown, but stays above probably Garrett Wilson, I would think. So we'll see where it levels out, but that's wow, Bijan before Breece Hall. I'm not sure I can get behind that one. I mean, I like Bijan, but I like Breece Hall more, that's for sure. And considering I wasn't drafting him last year, but for different reasons, not because I don't like him as a player, but because I don't like players coming off of torn ACLs, which is also why I have 0% Jonathan Brooks. And I'm going to keep it that way. I'm certainly not, if I'm not drafting a player that's been in the NFL off of a torn ACL, I'm certainly not drafting a rookie running back off of a torn ACL. He's going to be expected to learn the offense. It's going to be a slow starter. Maybe he kicks me in the teeth exactly like Breece Hall did last year. But do I really think that Jonathan Brooks is Breece Hall? No, I don't. So that's kind of my feelings on Jonathan Brooks this year. I have 0% exposure. I don't have a single share. And I don't think that that's going to change. And if I need to get him late in best ball drafts in September, right before the season starts or late August before the season starts, I'll pick up some shares if I have to. But I really just don't see that being absolutely necessary. So 4th overall, we start with Jamar Chase. Happy to get more exposure to my Bengals. Happy to get more exposure to Jamar Chase. We'll see what happens with T. Higgins. Bengals have a ton of cap space still. We didn't spend a lot of money. We just picked up Sheldon Rankins today, which is a great pickup. He slides in for DJ Reader, who's all but out the door now. BJ Hill still on the defensive line, and they got a bunch of good ends that can get after the quarterback. So we're fantastic looking on the defensive line with, Sheldon Rankins coming in. But there's still tons of cap space for the Bengals here. We'll see what they're going to do. To me, it doesn't seem like they're getting a deal done with T. Higgins, even though they have the money and the cap's going to keep going up. So I think they do have the capacity to pay T. Higgins and Jamar Chase with Joe Burrow, especially because the cap just went up $30 million this year. What's it going to go up next year? Probably another 20 plus, right? So I think that they do have the capacity to pay T. Higgins as long as he's willing to take, what he's worth. If he's willing to take wide receiver 2 money, and maybe they've offered that to him. I don't know. But we'll see what happens. I think worst case scenario, he's going to have to play on the franchise tag. Look throughout the history of players that have tried to strong arm the Bengals and force their hand and request a trade and say they're going to sit out or whatever. This team just let Carson Palmer retire. I don't know if people remember that, but they just said, all right, Carson, you don't want to play for us? Go ahead and retire. We're not going to pay you. Awesome. Good times. And then they traded him for a first plus. So we'll see what happens with T. Higgins. Same thing with Jonah Williams last year. He demanded a trade. He's not going to play for them unless they trade him. And look what happened there. He ended up playing on the franchise tag, played right tackle where they wanted to play him, played fairly well, got a contract, and now he's out of town. So To be honest, that's what I think happens with T. Higgins. He plays on the franchise tag, and it's up to him. He's got to earn the contract. They could tag him twice, but pretty unlikely. I think they just tag him this year and then they let him walk. Maybe there's a trade option there, but I just don't particularly see it. Look at what the Panthers just got for Brian Burns in a trade, second and a fifth, and considering what they turned down to a few years before, a couple first round picks, I just don't know if there's going to be a suitor for T. Higgins. I think DJ Moore is going to move up. I think his ADP is going to slide up. He could potentially sneak into the back end of the first round, I think. So I'm going to go ahead and draft DJ Moore. I fully expect the Bears to get somebody in the draft, and it could even be at 9, which means it could be Neighbors. It could be Odunze. I don't particularly see either of those guys being there. So to be honest, maybe they go offensive line at 9 and they don't get a wide receiver until the second round, third round. That's still a good spot to draft a wide receiver in a very good wide receiver class. So I don't know why DJ Moore doesn't move up. And again, I think he will. And if I'm getting a 5-pick discount at 21, and I think he's going to finish off at, 12, 13 ADP, he's at 14 or 16 right now. I think he could sneak into the back end of the first round when it settles out, ahead of Jahmyr Gibbs, ahead of Kyron Williams, players like that. I'm going to scoop up as much, especially if I'm getting a discount, especially if I'm getting value. I'm going to scoop up as many shares as I can, and it's an easy bring back with Caleb and Caleb Williams and Cole Kmet later in the draft. Definitely going to be going Deebo Samuel here. I love the start that I got going on. Not sure why I wouldn't take Deebo. Another discount. Josh Jacobs. What's going on here? All right. Interesting. You just think he's that good? Okay, that's fair. That's fair. That's interesting. Head of the curve? Not sure it's quite necessary, but he might not get him, I guess. Where's 48 and 49? Yeah, basically you got to pick him there if you want him. Yeah. All right. Okay. You expect him to slide up. Might be a little ahead of certainly it's unique. That's certainly going to be a unique build. I don't despise that. Drake London certainly sliding up draft boards. Full 10 picks ahead of ADP. Can't say there's anything wrong with that. Obviously, building out an Atlanta stack. That's interesting. This is it. It's a good time to draft. It's a good time to draft. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with those picks either. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with picking Drake London there or Josh Jacobs at 25. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with those picks. It's definitely unique. It's a little different. Maybe you're ahead of the curve. Maybe you're a little ahead of ADP with Josh Jacobs. Maybe he settles around, the 33 right around here where Travis Etienne's going. But not a bad pick. I don't curve a little bit. So there you go. And if you want him, you got to pick him there. So, excuse me. So that's interesting. But there we go. We'll see what happens. We'll see how this breaks down. I got some stacks that I can bring in late. I can bring in San Francisco stacks. I can bring in Chicago stacks. I could certainly do a Cincinnati stack. Mike Gesicki, 1-year deal. The Bengals are about that life right now, just signing a 1-year deal to a veteran tight end. They've done it 3-4 years in a row. I was kind of hoping that would be either Hunter Henry or Noah Fant. I liked Harrison Bryant to come in. He went to the Vegas Raiders, which is an interesting landing spot for Harrison Bryant. But I don't mind Mike Gesicki. I've always liked him as a player. Might be a bit of a poor man's Tyler Eifert, which there's nothing wrong with that if the Bengals fans remember Tyler Eifert. And it's a good offense for a tight end. It really is. Look at what was his name last year? What he did, the tight end last year that was playing a little bit. Tanner Hudson. Tanner Hudson had a reasonable year, reasonable season. 50 targets, 39 catches, 350 and a touchdown. Nothing wrong with that. And that was limited. He didn't play every single game. He didn't play a prominent role in every single game, that's for sure. So I see that as an upgrade for sure. I'm excited to have Mike Gesicki. Guy can jump out the gym, former volleyball player, I believe, and he can run. We'll see. I don't mind it. And it still leaves Brock Bowers on the table. He's still on the table to draft at 18th overall. If he's still there, I really want Brian Thomas. I want Brian Thomas Jr. out of LSU. That's the guy that I want at 18th overall. For me, he's not there. I think that's a perfect player for the Jets. I think the Jets at 10th, I think they are, if they're 10th overall, and all the top three wide receivers are gone, which I fully expect them to be, then Brian Thomas is a fantastic option there for the Jets. Just makes too much sense, especially if they feel like they're going to bring in, or if you feel like they're going to bring in David Bakhtiari, which, with Aaron Rodgers there, seems pretty likely, pretty doable. So we'll see. Rome Odunze, I thought was going to be a Tennessee Titan. That was before today. Was it today or yesterday? Hard to keep track. But Calvin Ridley becomes a Tennessee Titan. That basically takes wide receiver off the board for the Titans. I thought they were going to go after, again, Rome Odunze. I see a lot of Jamar Chase and Rome Odunze, Brian Callahan offense in Tennessee, in Nashville. I thought Rome Odunze would be a perfect fit, but that's certainly not going to happen with Calvin Ridley, Nuke Hopkins, Treylon Burks. And then does Treylon Burks move into the slot? He played 222 exactly plus slot snaps in college at Arkansas every year in college. So he can play the slot. It was a little mix of both, inside, outside. Maybe he finds his niche in the NFL in the slot. Maybe that's where he lands. Maybe that's where he's most comfortable in the NFL. I don't know. He run a lot of shallow crossers, drags, and things like that, slants, drags, things like that in college, underneath stuff. So maybe that's where he lands. Maybe that's where he's most comfortable at the NFL level. I don't know. I'm going to go with Rome Odunze, though, because I'm picking up as many shares as I can. I just think that he's that guy. If you've been watching the show, see my rankings, I have him ranked above Malik Neighbors personally. We'll see where he lands, though, because I'm really nervous that he goes to the New York Football Giants. If he goes to the Giants, I'll be really sad. I'll be really, really sad, and that'll hurt all my exposure. But I'm willing to kind of just take that risk realistically. I think I got to go with a running back here now, or I could bring in Trey McBride. I'm okay with that. I guess if Travis Kelce falls to 52, I could go ahead and pick Travis Kelce. There he goes. I'm fine with that. I don't want T. Higgins. I'm just not the biggest T. Higgins fan in the world. Even as a Bengals fan, I'm not the biggest T. Higgins fan. I think he's a good quality player, but a lot of people think he's wide receiver one material. He's the wide receiver one on any other team. That's what people like to say. I disagree with that. I really don't think he's a wide receiver one. I watch a lot of Bengals games. I watch every single game that they play. I've seen them play for a long time, and I just really don't think that that's the case for him. Could I be wrong? Of course, absolutely. I would have went Trey McBride there. So it's either Pacheco or Kenneth Walker. I've got a lot of shares of Kenneth Walker, more than I do Pacheco. So I'm going to go ahead and pick Isaiah Pacheco here. I think you could, at the very least, you got to expect exactly what he did. He might fall off a little bit in, the pass catching, but they haven't brought in any running back, to realistically to even spell Pacheco yet. Do I think they draft one? Yes, I absolutely do. And could it be more of a pass catching back? 100%. But I still like the way Pacheco runs. Hopefully it opens up a little bit more in the running game. Hopefully he's more healthy than he was this year. Even he was pretty healthy, but hopefully he's even more healthy, and he gets into the end zone, double digit times is what I'm looking for. Need him to get into the end zone a solid 10 times. And he's still going to catch the ball a little bit. The way that he runs the ball, runs so hard, runs like he's mad at the ground, all these types of things that you hear about Pacheco. I love him as a player. You can't not. Who knows if that's going to, extend into a long career. Think of Marion Barber type of situation. He doesn't run like Marion Barber, Marion Barber ran like he hated himself. So he's not quite that, but he's up there. So what do we got? George Pickens. That was a good pick. I was just I tweeted last week or something like that, right before the Russell Wilson signing, saying that if Russell Wilson goes to Pittsburgh, it's kind of wheels up for George Pickens. And it seems like people agree his ADP is moving up. Then they trade Deontay Johnson to the Panthers. They kind of always do that too. The Steelers have done that multiple times throughout the recent history. I was talking to a buddy earlier today. The only wide receiver that they haven't kind of moved on from or traded away, prematurely or early or, in his second, third year within his rookie contract, something like that, was Hines Ward, who, a lot of Steelers fans is one of the greatest, Steeler wide receivers of all time. Hines Ward was also one of the dirtiest players to ever play the game. So I hate Hines Ward. Obviously, I'm a Bengals fan. I'm a little bit biased, but he still was one of the dirtiest football players to ever play the game. Either way, I digress from that. They've moved on from a lot of second, third, fourth year wide receivers. Chase Claypool, for good reason. Mike Wallace, Antonio Brown, Deontay Johnson, Emmanuel Sanders, the list kind of goes on with these, Pittsburgh Steelers wide receivers. So they're definitely going to be drafting one. It'll be in the second, third round, maybe fourth round. Calvin Austin might play a role. So he might be draftable now, actually, Calvin Austin. If you have already fallen into that trap of drafting Calvin Austin, maybe you don't want to go down that road, but he is, draft viable. So I couldn't blame you if you do. Where are we going to go here? Probably looking at quarterback, and I should be okay because the T. Higgins drafter is behind me. Unless somebody wants to take just a dry, naked Joe Burrow on me, that would be unfortunate and very possible because stuff like that happens all the time. But I'll be taking Joe Mixon here, even though Kenny Walker, that's some huge discount right there. If I'm this guy, I take him. If I'm neck with 2 Ks, I take him. Aaron Jones, solid landing spot for Aaron Jones. There goes Kenny Walker. That makes sense. So let's go Joe Burrow here. Easy click. And then with my Deebo Samuel, I'll almost certainly, if he's still there, bring in George Kittle. That makes lots of sense. I don't mind Aaron Jones. I don't mind Alvin Kamara. I don't mind Nuke Hopkins here. I don't mind David Montgomery. A lot of options on the turn, on the wraparound here, so we'll see where it lands. We'll see where it goes. I like the way this is building out, though. 4 straight wide receivers. Going, hero RB with Isaiah Pacheco. Get my quarterback relatively early. I like building out the Bengals stacks, obviously. Let's get it going. And then I still got some back doors, like I said, with George Kittle, the Chicago stack. I can bring in a lot of options. If you know me, if you've been drafting with me, then I like to give myself options for late stacks, bringbacks, things like that. Nuke Hopkins is falling now, obviously, with the Calvin Ridley news. I'm not sure. I mean, it'll matter, but, Nuke Hopkins is still a fantastic wide receiver in the NFL. And there he goes. That's a good pick. So do I go running back if George Kittle gets taken? Yeah, I do. We'll see where this lands, the Tony Pollard, Tajay Spears kind of duo. That makes it easy. Definitely going to go George Kittle here, which brings in the Brock Purdy. I don't have to get Brock Purdy here. Not here, but with, I don't have to bring him into this build. But it'll fit. So I could, this does open the door for a 3-6-8-3 build, 3 quarterback, 6 running back, 8 wide receiver, 3 tight end. And then I can bring in the Chicago stack with Cole Kmet and Caleb Williams, and then finish it off with Brock Purdy. So Burrow, Brock Purdy, Caleb Williams, 6 running backs. And then I have my double stack with Jamar Chase and Mike Gesicki late. And then I bring in Brock Purdy to finish up this San Francisco stack with Deebo Samuel and George Kittle. And then I got my 3 quarterback double stack rolling. Might be what I end up building. We'll see. We'll see how it works out. 98 for Brock Purdy. That's my next 2 picks. I'd probably have to pick him here. Where's Ayuk? Ayuk's at the turn, so I would have to pick him, especially because there's no quarterback there. Yeah, I'm going to have to pick Brock Purdy at 93, which I don't mind, and I probably will do that as long as he's still there, which I expect him to be. I don't expect any of these guys to take just a naked Brock Purdy, but again, shit like that happens all the time, so you never know. And then, like I said, that opens the door. Cole Kmet's falling, which helps me in this build. So I can go Caleb Williams. Oh, interesting. That's close. This is going to be a close one. Do I take Caleb Williams at 100, 16 picks ahead of ADP, and then Cole Kmet here at 117 with Brock Purdy? Then that finishes out my quarterback room, almost finishes my tight end room, at least until, right here, probably 220. I can get Mike Gesicki and then finish up all those stacks. And then I'm just going to have to hammer wide receiver, but especially running back, sitting here with just Pacheco. Putt Daddy, what's up, man? Didn't the Bears sign another tight end? They did. It was Gerald Everett. I'm not too worried about Gerald Everett. Not too worried about him at all. Who did they have last year again that they brought in to kind of compete with Cole Kmet? Oh, man. Ugh, I can't remember who they brought in. They signed someone last year, too, that was, a compliment, but also competition to Cole Kmet. Ended up not mattering whatsoever, and I genuinely see that happening the same way this year. But Gerald Everett, yeah, quality, veteran tight end, I suppose, but I don't see him being a threat to Cole Kmet personally. So where are we at? Who am I trying to get? Trying to get Brock Purdy. Trying to get Brock Purdy here. And then I got an interesting kind of build going. I don't mind DeAndre Swift here, but I'm not going to take him with what I'm building. If I want to go down that Chicago stack route, then I don't want to take DeAndre Swift, but I don't mind the value there. I don't mind the pick. Tajay Spears is still viable right here too. I mean, he does need to fall. He was in the 60s, I believe, and he's already fallen like a full round, which he should. That makes sense. But he's still viable. I would still absolutely pick Tajay Spears. I'm going to go Brock Purdy, stack him up with my Cole Kmet and Deebo Samuel. Got Deebo, got George Kittle, not Cole Kmet, George Kittle and Deebo Samuel, and I got Brock Purdy. Had to pick him there because the 1-2 turn, the number 1 pick turn has Christian McCaffrey and Brandon Ayuk. So very, very high potential that he wanted Brock Purdy there. So this is going to be interesting. Either I sacrifice some ADP value for the stack that I'm building, which to me might be more important, but guys like Brian Robinson, I still like. Again, I said last week, Kenyon Drake he was top 5 in the NFL in goal line carries a few years ago under Cliff Kingsbury, who's the offensive coordinator now, unless you think Austin Eckler is the goal line back in Washington, which I certainly do not. I still think Brian Robinson's completely viable as well. Again, if you're getting value, Javonte Williams is a viable player to pick here. Chase Brown, obviously. But quarterbacks aren't really slipping. Where was Herbert? Yeah. Quarterbacks aren't really slipping. And there goes Brian Robinson. I'm just going to roll with this stack. I'm just going to build out this stack. I don't love doing this a full round. Usually I like to keep it within 12 picks, but I'm going to give it a whirl. Done at quarterback, quite obviously. People might even say this is overkill, and I would probably agree. I would probably be more than fine stopping at Joe Burrow and Brock Purdy. If I'm getting either two quarterbacks or two tight ends that are inside the top 100, I'm probably going to be done. And I certainly wouldn't take three, right? But here we are. I'm taking a swing, building something a little bit different here. And I should be able to get a triple stack Joe Burrow, double stack Joe Burrow, double stack Brock Purdy, and double stack Caleb Williams. So it should be a different, interesting, unique type of a build. But my running back room is going to be ultra thin. So it's a sacrifice that I'm clearly willing to make, I guess. Yeah, it's been an interesting free agency. That's for damn sure. I'm happy that Joe Mixon, if anyone's watched my channel for any amount of time, you know how much I don't like Joe Mixon as a player. And so I'm happy he's finally gone. I think I heard, I haven't actually seen it with my two eyes, but I heard that it was a pick swap, 6 for a 7th, 7th and Joe Mixon go for a 6th round pick. That's what I had heard. So I'm all right with that. To be honest, it's better than cutting them. I'll certainly take something rather than just cut them for nothing. But I like the duo of Zach Moss. I certainly like Chase Brown. And I like Zach Moss coming in. I like what he can do. I liked him coming into the league. You know, he got kind of a raw deal with the Buffalo Bills there. And then he showed what he could do last year with the Colts, and he can be, a bell cow type of a back. He can catch the ball okay as well. So him and Chase Brown, I think that's a great duo. I'm more than happy to have that in the backfield. So yeah, I'm happy Joe Mixon's gone. We'll see where it levels out. Like I said earlier with T. Higgins, that's going to be an interesting type of situation. But I think he just plays on the tag is what I think ends up happening. We'll see what happens with the Raiders here. Jacoby Myers, Devontae Adams. Call me crazy, but I think that the Raiders are going to push for a playoff spot this year, even with just Gardner Minshew. Look at what Gardner Minshew did with the Colts last year. If you don't agree with me on this, I guess we can have that conversation, but I think the Raiders roster right now is in a better spot than the Colts roster was last year. So with bringing in Christian Wilkins, Max Crosby, and as long as Tyree Wilson is the guy that they drafted him to be, which I think he is, that's a dangerous looking defense, especially defensive line, man. That's up there with one of the most dangerous defensive lines in the game. Max Crosby is arguably the best pass rusher in the entire NFL right now. And Christian Wilkins is an absolute stud. I loved Tyree Wilson coming into the league too. So that's dangerous. I think the Raiders are in a good spot. Now, if you've been watching this show, I've been touting that coaching staff for weeks now. And it's an extremely talented coaching staff that's going to do nothing but get the best out of the players that they have. So I'm interested to see what happens with the Raiders. I'm interested to see what they do at quarterback. I mean, I think that they would love Jaden Daniels. We'll see how that kind of levels out or how that works out. I think he goes number 2 to the Washington Commanders. I think it's set in stone for me. Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, 1-2. I think that's set in stone. I think the draft starts at 3, and we'll kind of take it from there. Justin Fields, does he land with the Raiders? He's still on the table. There's some sneaky landing spots for him, but every day that goes by, it's kind of looking less and less likely that he's going to be starting football games this year. I think he's still a starting caliber quarterback. It's not easy to find a starting caliber quarterback in the NFL. And I think he can get the job done, especially in certain situations and certain schemes. I'm going to take Cole Kmet here, wrap up my Chicago stack, Caleb Williams, DJ Moore, and now Cole Kmet comes in. So my double stack with the Bears is taken care of. My double stack with the 49ers is taken care of. All I need is Mike Gesicki to come in, finish out my tight end room, and I got a double stack with my Cincinnati Bengals. So now basically I've just got a hammer running back and wide receiver until the end of this draft, and hopefully pick up some value. Pick off some fallers. Marquise Hollywood Brown's already falling. Who knows where he's going to land, though? That's the interesting one, is he's the biggest name, I think, by far, sitting out there in the free agent market. I don't know. I don't know where he goes at this point. I'm kind of at a loss, to be honest with you. I mean, we can run through it on our heads a little bit, but I really don't know. I really don't know where he goes. I highly doubt, Pittsburgh is going to take a shot on someone like that. I'm happy that Trey Benson went there, right there, because I didn't want to have to make the decision between Trey Benson and Chuba Hubbard, and I'm absolutely taking Chuba Hubbard here. I think he's in a great spot. He's in a great spot. If you watched this show last year when I was doing nothing but hammering the table for Rachaad White, and now I'm not drafting Rachaad White whatsoever, but I was hammering the table for Rachaad White. That one worked out. I think Chuba Hubbard is this year's kind of Rachaad White. Dave Canales is the reason there. Plus, they just brought in, I think it was 2 big guards, didn't they? They got Robert Hunt and somebody else at guard. So I really like how the offensive line's shaping up in Carolina. Again, with Dave Canales, that's the biggest thing. And I think we're going to see a 1,000-yard season out of Chuba Hubbard this year. And depending on that offense, we'll see. I don't think we're going to get to like double-digit touchdowns for Chuba. Maybe total, receiving and rushing. But I think he's in for a boost. I'm happy to get that in my super hyper fragile running back room here. I'm happy to get Chuba Hubbard. Vaporware, what's happening, man? I think it was Gerald Everett. That's who I said. So he's the one who went to the Bears, veteran tight end. I'm not worried about Gerald Everett taking snaps away from Cole Kmet personally. If you think that he can do that, then great. But I think he's just another veteran tight end to bring in for a rookie quarterback, unless you are in the camp that thinks that they're going to keep Justin Fields. And even if they do keep Justin Fields, do you think they're going to play Justin Fields over Caleb Williams? I don't. I don't think they keep him. I don't think they, even if they do, I don't think they play him over Caleb Williams. But we'll see. We'll see. Bears Twitter is an interesting spot right now. It's an interesting place to reside. But NFL's crazy. You never know. All right. So still hammering running back and wide receiver until the end of this draft. I don't mind a rookie here. There's a couple rookie running backs that I like. I'm a big Jahan Dotson believer this year. I think he's my highest exposed player personally, and I don't mind that at all. I think Jaden Daniels is a Washington Commander. I think he's the quarterback there. I like Cliff Kingsbury coming in. They've done nothing but put in a little bit of work. The Commanders are quietly, maybe not quietly, I don't know, but they're quietly putting together a really solid roster, especially on the defensive side of the ball, with Dan Quinn coming in as well. I really like what they're doing there. They could definitely use some offensive line help, but I really, really, really like what the Washington Commanders are doing right now. And they're going to push for that. They're going to push for the division. Do I think they win it? No, absolutely not. I think the Eagles win that division, but they're going to push for it, I think. Some good players here. Marvin Mims, Roman Wilson. I might just take Jahan Dotson here. I mean, getting some value. I was going to take Jalen Wright for sure, but I'll take Jahan Dotson, get some value, and you never know. I guess maybe Caleb Williams is the quarterback in Washington, but I highly doubt it. I'm not drafting that way. So, and then hopefully Jerome Ford falls. I'll definitely take Jerome Ford. Marshawn Lloyd is there. Xavier Legette I like. Yeah. Roshan Johnson's obviously slipping with the DeAndre Swift news, as he should. Jerome Ford, there he goes. That's all right. I'm still drafting Braylon Allen. I'll talk about that. I really am curious. 2 days on Friday, this Friday, the 15th, Friday, March 15th is the Wisconsin Pro Day. Really looking forward to seeing what Braylon Allen runs in the 40. All he needs to do is get in the 5.5s. That's all anybody needs to see. That's all I need to see. And then I'm more than happy. If he runs a 5.56, 5.55, something like that, I'm more than happy. Definitely going Marshawn Lloyd here. That's an easy click for me. He's top 3 running back in this draft class for me, no questions asked. Very potential that he ends up with the LA Chargers. They brought in Gus Edwards, who I said last week, I believe, very good chance that Gus Edwards ends up on the LA Chargers. There he is. But I like Marshawn Lloyd, the running back coach from USC, is the running back coach at the LA Chargers. So, potential he ends up there. And that's the most coveted running back spot in the NFL with Greg Roman and Jim Harbaugh. Yeah, man, the Roshan shares. I don't have a ton of Roshan shares. Don't have a crazy amount of Tajay. I have more Tajay Spears shares than I do Roshan. But they definitely took a hit. I think that Roshan gets hurt harder than Tajay. Believe it or not. That might sound crazy to some people, but I think Tajay is going to have a bigger role in the Titans offense than Roshan does in the Bears offense, if that makes sense, barring any injury, obviously. And to be honest, DeAndre Swift's the more, injury prone back in this conversation, right? But Tony Pollard coming off of that broken leg, it's pretty clear that you cannot give him volume. Exactly what I said last year. I didn't draft a single share of Tony Pollard last year. Not one, not a single share. And I don't think any other person that, streams or anyone that drafts the volume that I do or that, other streamers do, or maybe some of you guys, I don't think anyone can say that they didn't draft a single share of Tony Pollard, but I did not a single one. There's no chance you could catch me drafting Tony Pollard in the first round last year. And I didn't. And here we are. So I think that Tajay Spears actually is still going to have a good role in this offense. So I think he's who got hit harder. I think Roshan got hit harder than Tajay personally. And ADPs reflect that. Tajay is getting drafted before Roshan Johnson. Clearly the market agrees as it sits right now. We'll see how this, transpires throughout the summer and where it goes in Best Ball Mania season. But I think I'm drafting Tajay. I just said a few minutes ago in this draft, actually, I was talking about it, that, Tajay Spears is still viable. He fell a full round plus since Tony Pollard got signed with the Titans. And of course he will. He should fall that far. But we'll see where he lands. He's at about 80 right now. I think he'll probably land, maybe another 5 to 10 picks from where he's at right now. But as I said before in a few episodes ago, all summer and as best ball season, as drafting season goes on, wide receivers get pushed up. Happens every single year. Rookies get pushed up after the combine. Free agents get pushed up after free agency. Rookies get pushed up again after the draft, right? And that's just the nature of how drafting season goes every single year. So we'll see where he lands is just because he's a running back too. Not running back too, but running back as well, if you know what I'm saying. So anyways, that was a bit of a little rant there. That was a good comment. I like that. That's a good conversation starter. That's the kind of stuff that, free agency brings, right? Is those types of conversations and those types of swings and misses potentially, or swings and hits sometimes, right? Anyone that's drafted Gus Edwards throughout the best ball drafting season so far is loving life right now. That's for sure. What do I want to do here? Be Roman Wilson. That's super easy, discounted price for me. I do need to add some running backs here, but there's realistically no one that I want to draft here. There goes Roman Wilson. That hurts. Love me some Wan'Dale Robinson, actually. I'm trying to get more Jalen Hyatt shares as well, but I'm going to go Wan'Dale Robinson in this build. I just need to get essentially some talent in my wide receiver and running back room. I like where I'm at with these three running backs here. With Pacheco, I loved getting Chuba Hubbard where I got him. Marshawn Lloyd, top 3 running back for me. And I'm only drafting 6, and I'm drafting 8 wide receivers. I've locked myself in to a 3-6-8-3, and I'm perfectly fine with that, but I've locked myself into that type of a build. But again, I'm happy with that. I knew I was doing it from pick what I started talking about at pick 5 or whatever I was at. I'm happy to build that way when I knew in my head that that's the direction I was going. So be it, right? It is what it is. And the last tight end will be Mike Gesicki, in case there's any guesses, unless someone takes a dry Mike Gesicki for no good reason. Let's roll through the team. After this pick, I'll roll through the team. Like the way this is going. I like the way this is going. If I can get the running back that I want right now, which I should be able to. Oh, Estime goes. That's a guy that I'm not drafting at all again because I have too much exposure. Good thing I have a lot of drafts left. But running a 4.72, that's just really, really slow. I'll be taking Ray Davis here, a guy that I really like. Ran fast enough to keep his draft capital or draft value, I should say. We'll see where his capital lands. But he's a quality running back, in my opinion. I have him as like a top probably 6, maybe 5 or 6 running back in this year's draft. So I'm happy to get Ray Davis there. But let's roll through the team. Joe Burrow, Brock Purdy, Caleb Williams in the quarterback room. Did I spend too much capital on that room? Absolutely. Is it overkill? Probably. Do I need these 3 quarterbacks? No, I don't. But I like the way that this build came about, and you got to do some things differently. You got to have some different builds when you're maxing out 150 entry tournaments. So Joe Burrow, Brock Purdy, Caleb Williams, Isaiah Pacheco, Chuba Hubbard, Marshawn Lloyd, Ray Davis, Jamar Chase, DJ Moore, Deebo Samuel, Rome Odunze, Jahan Dotson, Wan'Dale Robinson. I got George Kittle and Cole Kmet. So I've got my double stacks with Brock Purdy, double stack with Caleb Williams, as long as he goes first overall, which I think everyone can agree that's the most likely scenario. And then as long as I'm able to get Mike Gesicki late in the draft, either way, I can get another Bengals wide receiver late in the draft to build a double stack with Joe Burrow. That's the plan. So back myself into the build that I know I'm building. 3-6-8-3. I know what I'm doing. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Unless I got some crazy value on one position, wide receiver or running back, and then maybe I could have went 7-7, but that didn't happen. So it is what it is. I know what I'm doing, and I've kind of locked myself into it, backdoored myself into it. But yeah, Braylon Allen, that's the running back that I'm most looking for. That's realistically the only pro day. Besides actually Memphis, Blake Watson is a running back that I really like. Didn't get invited to the combine, which is a bit of a travesty. So I like Blake Watson. Looking forward to that Memphis pro day. Braylon Allen's pro day this Friday, the 15th for Wisconsin. I want him to run a 4.5. That's all I want to see. 4.55. Perfectly happy with that. He's still in the conversation for running back 1 in this year's draft for me. Unless he runs like a 4.7, if he's, low 4.6s, he'll still be in the top 5 running back conversation for me. But I want to see 4.5, 4.52, 4.54, something like that. That's all I want to see out of Braylon Allen. But Blake Watson, there's a sleeper for you because he is going to make a team as a kick returner. Mark my words, Blake Watson, running back from Memphis. He can catch the ball as well. Had a great East-West Shrine Bowl. Or was it Senior Bowl? No, it was East-West Shrine Bowl. He's going to be a kick returner, so he's going to win that job. I said this a few weeks ago as well. He's going to make the team as a kick returner, running back 3, a lot like Khalil Herbert was for the Bears a few years ago when he had, not a breakout, but he had a bit of a role when David Montgomery got hurt. That's what I see for a guy like Blake Watson. So if you don't know who that is, go check out his stat line. Go watch his tape. He's going to make a team as a kick returner, running back 3. He's going to be on the team, and that's what we're looking for in the last round. This might actually be a good build for a guy like Blake Watson. We'll see, but it's a little too fragile of a running back room for me to take a guy like that. I'd rather a veteran, but we'll see where it lands. Dameon Pierce is viable here, even though Mixon comes in. If you've been watching this show, you know I hate Joe Mixon as a player. But I'm not so sure I like Dameon Pierce more than Joe Mixon. So yeah, we'll see where that lands, but pretty easy click here to take Rashad Bateman. Unless you think there's a reunion with Hollywood Brown with the Ravens, it's possible, certainly possible, not very likely. And it sounds like they want and they expect Rashad Bateman to take a step forward this year. And with the way I'm building, with the fragility of this team, just makes too much sense. Just makes too much sense for me. Mike Gesicki has been moving up, but I won't be taking him until maybe I'll take him at the 213 just to make sure I get him because I want to lock up this stack with the Cincinnati Bengals. So we've just been alternating. That's interesting. I didn't even notice that, but we're alternating since I had to force those picks, the running back, wide receiver. It's been boom, running back, wide receiver, running back, wide receiver, running back, wide receiver. Didn't even mean to do that, but it just made complete sense to do it. I like the players that I got in every spot. So I'm happy with where this team's, going. I'm happy with where it's going. I do need 2 running backs still. I am going to take, starting to get thin, especially at running back, but I'm going to go ahead and grab Tank Bigsby. He's a guy that I liked a lot last year. Didn't really work out. It's been said this offseason already so far that they want to get him more involved. They want to take some of the load off of Travis Etienne. I think there's some potential that Travis Etienne can be a little bit fragile. We'll see. He had a great year last year, so I can't really talk shit about Travis Etienne. But I do think that Tank Bigsby is the direct handcuff. And I say it all the time on this show, on this channel. I say it all the time. At this late in the draft, you really want to get the direct handcuff, right? We're 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th round, whatever it is. If you can get the direct handcuff in a running back room, you can't really ask for more, right? And I think that's Tank Bigsby. I think that's Israel Abanikanda, maybe Dameon Pierce, you could say. Those types of guys. Those are the types of guys that I'm going after. Joined by number 1 option in backfield. Yeah, Justice Hill. We were talking about this Ravens backfield last week. That was always on the table for Derrick Henry. I was saying, I was listening to Sirius Satellite NFL Radio. I listen. I keep saying watch. I listen to it in my truck while I'm working almost every single day. And they were talking about running backs in Baltimore, how just every running back in the league looks like a Baltimore Raven running back, right? They were saying Derrick Henry really looks like a Baltimore Raven. Yeah, man, every running back looks like a Baltimore Raven, right? Josh Jacobs. Would anyone be surprised if Josh Jacobs was a Baltimore Raven? Would anyone be shocked if Saquon became a Baltimore Raven? Maybe not for that price tag, and they didn't want to pay that money for him or Josh Jacobs, but I digress. Either way, I don't think anyone's shocked or surprised that King Henry is now a Baltimore Raven. Perfect fit. And that's going to make that team that much tougher to play against, which sucks for me, having to play them twice a year and being in the same division. But, Ravens are a good team. You got to respect it. Good team, good franchise, really. You got to respect it. It's not like they're the Pittsburgh Steelers. If there's any Steelers fans in here, then sorry about it. But news on Boyd. Interested in joining hometown team and the Steelers. I just saying that the other day. It's a perfect fit. Perfect fit for Boyd or the Chiefs. I think obviously he went to Pitt. That's where he went to school. He was a Pitt Panther. So it makes tons of sense. I hope he doesn't, because I really don't want to hate him. I don't want to hate Tyler Boyd. I get it. Bengals or Chiefs or Steelers fans hate me too, I'm sure, which is fine. It's totally fine. It's expected. We hate each other. No big deal. So I hope he doesn't go there, because I just don't want to hate him. I really don't want to hate Tyler Boyd. I think I'm going to push Mike Gesicki here. I think I'm going to push him unless these guys want to take a dry Mike Gesicki, which they could, but I think I'm going to push them and take Israel Abanikanda. Like I said, this running back room is so fragile that I really need not only, honestly, non-rookies. I don't want to take rookies in this type of a build. I want at least, both of these guys are second-year running backs. I want players that I know where they're going to be. I know what their role is. I think they're the direct handcuff to the starter, so they're going to get those reps if the starter gets injured. So I could backdoor myself into a starting running back if there's an injury. That's how I attack it, especially, again, with this hyper fragile running back room I have. I think it's hyper fragile. I don't really love the room completely, but I do like Pacheco. I do like Hubbard, and I do like the opportunity that I think Marshawn Lloyd will get. But yeah, when we're this late in the draft and it's this fragile of a running back room and a running back build, then I have to go, in my opinion, the way I look at it is I have to go with a player who's on a team. I know where he is. I know his role. So Mike Gesicki's still there. Love to see it. Done at tight end now. Done at running back. Done at quarterback. I got one more wide receiver to pick. Very happy with that. Got my double stack Bengals, double stack 49ers, double stack Bears. Fragile, but I like the room at running back. I really don't mind the way this room kind of shaped up here. So fragile, absolutely. But as long as Pacheco's in my lineup most weeks and Hubbard, as long as they're in my lineup most weeks, I should be all right. With my wide receiver room looking pretty strong. Jamar Chase got a discount on DJ Moore. Deebo Samuel got a couple pick discount on. Rome Odunze, I just absolutely love. I think he's just that guy. I'm not saying he's the number one wide receiver. I am saying he's the number two wide receiver in this draft for me. But he's absolutely my favorite wide receiver. I just absolutely am just praying to the football gods that the New York Giants do not draft Rome Odunze. That would really hurt my butt a lot. I'd be super unhappy on draft day if Rome Odunze is a Giant. That would really suck. Really, really suck. Jahan Dotson, Wan'Dale Robinson, again, another Giant. So I really hope that doesn't happen. Rashad Bateman, I like, again, bringing it up with a veteran who the team certainly wants to take a leap. And it's now or never for Rashad Bateman. Has to happen right now, or it's literally never going to happen. George Kittle, Cole Kmet, Mike Gesicki. I'm happy with that tight end room. So I like this team. I like this build. I'm happy with where we're at. I do want a rookie wide receiver is what I would like with this final pick. I think A.T. Perry's viable for sure. Don't mind that. Alec Pierce is habitually disrespected a little bit. I know his stat line hasn't been great, but far as my just memory serves correctly, he ran the most go balls out of anyone in the NFL last year. If you don't know, Gardner Minshew doesn't have the biggest arm in the NFL. That's for damn sure. But you know who might? AR-15. Anthony Richardson might have I'm not going to say the strongest. He might have a top 5 strongest arm in the NFL. So he can throw those go balls. So we can see some spike weeks come out of Alec Pierce. We already did last year, but we might see some more where he's, one play away from cracking your lineup. He's 150-yard touchdown away from cracking your best ball lineup every single week, every single play, realistically, especially with Anthony Richardson slinging the rock back there. So for rookies, there's really not too much, that's really exciting. Like I said, Calvin Austin's viable. Trey Tucker, I think, is viable for sure. And even more so now that Hunter Renfrow is officially released from this team. Certainly had some splash plays. I have him in some dynasty football, rosters, stuff like that. So he's viable. Not really seeing enough for a rookie here. I don't think I'm going to be drafting a rookie. Taj Washington is somewhat viable. I got a few shares there. We'll see where he goes. Small slot type of a guy. But I like him. Didn't get invited to the senior or the combine either, I don't believe. Eric Gray, if you've been following the channel, I have tons of shares of Eric Gray. We'll see. Obviously, Singletary coming in, I don't completely love, but it is what it is. So who do I want to take here? I guess I have enough shares of Pierce. Let's mix in a Calvin Austin for fun. He becomes viable now with Deontay Johnson leaving. Do I think they draft a wide receiver? Absolutely, I do. I know they like Calvin Austin. He's a speed guy, spike week, splash play type of a player. And he's just viable. Again, 20th round, your last pick. You're telling me that Calvin Austin isn't a viable option? If you want to paint that picture, go ahead, but I think he is. So if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. It's a 20th round. Doesn't matter anyways. So good looking roster, I think. Double stack Joe Burrow. Let's jump back in there. 83 big boards is where I'm at. I got tons of room. I'm super happy to have a lot of drafts left. A little bit on that. We'll talk about that for a second, so I can hide some of the exposures that I don't like, right? And I can make up for some mistakes, if we want to call them mistakes. But like Audric Estime, I have too much Audric Estime. I will not be drafting him anymore. I already have enough. I'll finish. If I don't draft him again, I'll finish at like 10%, which is great. Whereas if I had done all my drafts, I probably would be, more like 20 to 25% Audric Estime. And I'd be kicking myself. I'd be very upset with that. But the draft that we did tonight, 3683, double stack Joe Burrow, double stack Brock Purdy, double stack Caleb Williams. Got Isaiah Pacheco, Chuba Hubbard bringing up my running back room with Marshawn Lloyd, Ray Davis, couple rookies that I like. Tank Bigsby and Israel Abanikanda, two, guys that I think that I know their role. I think that the direct handcuff to the starters. So I like those picks. Jamar Chase, DJ Moore, Deebo Samuel, Roma Dunze, Jahan Dotson, Wan'Dale Robinson, Rashad Bateman, Calvin Austin III as my 20th round pick. George Kittle, Cole Kmet, and Mike Gesicki bringing up my tight end room. I'm happy with this draft. I'm happy with this build. So, yeah, that was a good draft. Good draft, good night. Appreciate everybody popping in. Appreciate the comments. Like and subscribe. Turn on that notification bell, too, if you are subscribed to see when I'm going live. I do this at the very, very least once a week. I'll be doing live drafts, talking through some strategy, looking at exposures. If you guys have any requests, just throw it in the chat and I'll show you whatever I got. I don't mind showing anything. So throw it in the chat. Again, turn on that notification bell because I'll probably be, firing in some random drafts on a Tuesday, Thursday, Monday, maybe a weekend draft, something like that. Got a little busy this past week, so still putting it out here on obviously a Wednesday. So I'll always be here on a Wednesday night, 7 in Mountain Time. What is that? 9 in the East. Come check it out. So like I always say on Off the Schneid, if you're afraid to be wrong, you'll never be right. Hopefully tonight we were right. Hit that like button on your way out, and we'll see you next week.